Our former ASU president, Professor Festus Iyayi, who died recently in an accident in Kogi State, is to be buried tomorrow in his hometown Ubegu in Edo State. A funeral service was held at the University of Benin in his honor today, and in attendance were his immediate family members, former colleagues, and the governor of Edo State, Adams Oshomole. At the church service, his former colleagues vowed not to end industrial disputes, except the authorities pay them all their entitlements. Professor Iyayi died while trying to mediate in the ongoing impasse between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU.
We are here as witnesses to a man who did what he did for Nigeria, for the academic, for Nigeria University.
In conjunction with Comrade Iyayi's family, will insist and carry through the struggle to bring to justice those who killed our leader and mentor. We hope that when this struggle begins, our people will side with the truth and the cause of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only fair to say that Comrade Iyayi, that here was a man who lived a life of commitment, unblemished by betrayal of any sort. Let the young take examples from that life and keep the values he stood for alive forever.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information, Mr. Labaran Maku, has accused members of the All Progressive Congress, APC, of sabotage over the ASU strike. According to Mr. Maku, the federal government's efforts in resolving the industrial action embarked upon by the university lecturers are being frustrated by the APC. Mr. Maku, who spoke at a news conference in Abuja, added that members of the APC are fighting to gain the support of Nigerians ahead of the 2015 elections.
Of the APDPC is to now hang on to this strike, and begin to pretend that they are supporting the electoral to go on with the strike. So the idea now is that they believe if the strike can continue to 2015, it is better for their presidential ambition, which is really very sad. That's exactly what is going on. Because some of those states also own universities. What have they done there? If the federal government is negotiating with its own employees, what have they done? Has any of the state universities negotiated and paid off their allowances?
The LSA Summit on Peace and Security in Africa has opened in Paris, with the President of France, Mr. Francois Hollande, pledging the sum of over 20 billion euros for the development of Africa. Mr. Hollande challenged the African leaders in attendance to take charge of the continent's security and pledged that France would at all times provide training and the enabling environment for that purpose. Over 30 minutes of the opening ceremony was dedicated to the life and times of the former South African President Nelson Mandela, who died yesterday. State House correspondent Chukuma Onekusi has the details.
For over 1 hour, the French President, Mr. Francois Hollande, stood at the threshold of his office to receive the various heads of government from Africa on the red carpet as they arrive for the Elysee Summit. Into the summit proper for the opening ceremony, the first 30 minutes were dedicated to Nelson Mandela. They also observed a minute silence for the repose of his soul. The French president, in the French language, told them not to take for granted the fact that Mandela died on the eve of the summit, urging African leaders to emulate the humble life he led. Speaker after speaker emphasized the need for cooperation between Europe and Africa. while the French president pledged 20 billion euro for development activities and training of African peacekeepers. The United Nations Secretary General, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and the President of the European Union Commission said that what brings Africa and Europe together is greater than what separates them, and that peace in one means peace in another.
I will count on you to make the Millennium Development Goals a top priority. Too many African youth lack jobs. Too many women face violence. Too many children die of preventable diseases.
I am glad that we will also have the opportunity to exchange views on issues of economic development and the impact of climate change, which have serious implications for peace and security in our continent.
The summit enters into a working session, and it is expected that the African leaders will come up with a commitment that will bring a concrete solution to the decisions taken. Chukuma Onwekuse in Paris for Channels Television News.
Let's take business news, and here's Loretta Chiogo. Thank you, Bimbo. We'll start off with this report that the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Ms. Christine Lagarde, has expressed sadness over the death of Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa. In a statement released by the IMF on Friday, Ms. Lagarde noted that Nelson Mandela was a courageous and visionary leader who inspired his people in extraordinary challenges. Ms. Lagarde also stated that he was a man who brought deep principles, skillful diplomacy, and quiet dignity to the task of national reconciliation and nation building. Her words, his modesty in the face of greatness will always be remembered and, moreover, will continue to inspire us. End of quote. Meanwhile, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange paused trade for 5 minutes at 11 a.m. South African time today to mark the passing of former President Nelson Mandela. The International Monetary Fund says Nigeria's economy has continued to perform strongly in 2013 and projects a growth rate of 7% in 2014. This is contained in the Article 4 consultation statement of the fund. The IMF visited Nigeria in November and met with Finance Minister Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, senior government officials, members of the legislature, and representatives of the private sector. The IMF mission commended the central bank's monetary policy stance, which has seen the inflation rate drop to a single digit of 7%. The group, however, warned that though the outlook is positive, risks need to be managed. For Nigeria to improve on its current state in the implementation of the International Financial Reporting Standards, the challenges hindering the progress of the concept must be well addressed. This is the view of participants at a forum organized by the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. According to them, although the IFRS scheme comes with amazing features, there are certain key areas which must be properly reviewed. And finally, the local birds continue to slump in figures as the all-share index dropped by 0.33%. My colleague Bolaji Akinwale brings details of trading today. Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The local bourse closed lower today with the all-share index down by 0.3% at 38,738.15 points. The market's capitalization also dropped to finish at 12.3 trillion naira. WAPCO, Okomo Oil and Union Dicom made the top three gainers. They added 3 naira 5 kobo, 1 naira and 63 kobo to the share prices in that order. However, on the flip side, Nestle tops the list of laggards with 25 naira loss. Nigerian Breweries followed with 2 naira, while Mobil shared 1 naira 80 kobo to close at 118 naira 20 kobo. Unity Bank, WAPIC and Transcorp were at the top trades for the day, pulling the highest volume of shares. In all, investors churned out a total of 512.01 million units of shares, valued at 3.1 billion naira, exchanged in 4,271 deals. And that's it on the stock market report. I am Bolaji Akinwale. And of course, that's it on Business News. News at 10 continues shortly. Stay with us.